What up, fam? I'm back here with my co-host, Dan Bartels, who wasn't on the post game, covering the Ryder Cup for the Post. But I will say, Dan, give me your thoughts on today and the season as a whole, as we're going to get into a ton on the program.
Yeah, a lot to get into tonight, everybody. I know I'm wearing white. Should have been wearing black for the Mets funeral that took place today. Couldn't even win a game. And it's frustrating because the Reds lost to the Brewers. That was a big part of the equation, right? That was the real part of the equation that we were thinking of because we thought the Mets were good enough to win that final game against Miami. We were wrong. We've been wrong a lot this year, and we'll address why. Not in the sense of our takes. I think for the most part, Ray, our takes have actually been pretty solid. I'm proud of what we bring to the podcast and the platform. But it's more we were fooled as fans. We were fooled that this team could have been a lot better than we expected. You look at it on paper, unbelievable talent, as Mendoza cited for months to end the season. And we'll get to him and his future, don't get me wrong. Look at the talent on the field. This team should have been easily walking into the playoffs. Easily. Not limping, not staggering. They didn't even make it. They fell flat on their face at the finish line. That's frustrating. So we got fooled as fans thinking that this would be a better team. You know, retool for 2026. We'll talk about the offseason here. We'll talk about the offseason moving forward. You know, potential free agents to look at, potential, trades that can be made from this team because the fact that we were sold a bill of goods, you cannot bring back this team again from a coaching standpoint, from a player standpoint, from a mentality standpoint. There is so many things inherently flawed with this Mets team that basically came to light today. I mean, there was a lot of things with this game, just guys like Ronnie Mauricio not knowing how many what the count is. I mean, these are things that are very frustrating for a team. I get it. They're on the young side, right? These guys are getting older. Beatty's not a rookie anymore. Viento's not a rookie. Mauricio, again, getting older. Like, the youth is in the pitching. And I guess maybe next year we'll see the youth in guys like Carson Bench, maybe more position players. We'll get to Nimmo's future as well. There is so much up in the air with this Mets team right now, and it's just frustrating because it's the first stage of really accepting what went wrong. You know, the multiple stages of grief, acceptance, denial. A lot of us are in denial right now. And I think myself
I was in anger in the post game.
Anger, that's another part of it. And I think a lot of us, we get angry. I was very frustrated before. Luckily, I went to the Ryder Cup today. Shout out all my golf fans out there. It was a beautiful weekend out at Bethpage Black. Unbelievable. You know, the scenery, the experience, the drinks, the food. It was unbelievable. Said USA couldn't take it home, but that's a separate conversation for another day.
Win there.
Well, we've seen a lot of problems in New York sports. Again, I was telling you right before, Malik Neighbors out for the year, right? So there's problems everywhere. But the Mets are really dealing with really serious problems because this team should not be in this position 2 years in a row coming down to the final game of the season. That's unacceptable. Unacceptable. So just that was kind of my blank takeaways. I'm still in denial that this is happening to this team. It's going to be probably a week or two until I finally get cleansed of what this season was. But you guys have been here for it. You've been through the punches with us, and we appreciate that more than anything. But we got punched really hard, and we're going to need an ice pack or two to get back up. So that's it, Ray, for me.
I cannot believe the season's over. But with that said, we're going to go to one of our segments that I love to go to. And yes, we stole it from over at WFAN because I know people are going to say it. But bold-faced truth and bold-faced lies. And we're going to bring you the honest take. Not the take from the club, but from what we're actually hearing in the media circles. So let's get to it. Dan, bold-faced truth or bold-faced lie? The New York Mets will go beyond 5 years to bring back Pete Alonso.
I think this is a bold-faced lie. I think we're going to look at it from 5 years under, 5 years and over. You can basically, I don't feel very confident that they're going to do that for multiple reasons, right? Number one, you look at Nimmo's contract. You look at Lindor's contract. You look at Soto's opt-out. I think they're going to keep that Fab Four together. I don't see a world where they're getting rid of Lindor. Nimmo's kind of the hot button guy, but I think they're going to find a way not to trade him or do anything with that big contract. And Pete, I mean, that's just the topic of the offseason at this point. But 5 years and up, you're really running a risk of being outside of that winning window that we talk about with those 4 players under contract for the next 5 seasons. So that's number one. And then 2, I just don't think the Mets, they're going to live at like a 4-year range, maybe 5 at the most, 3 at the minimum. Pete's not taking a 2-year deal. We saw that this year. He wouldn't have opted out, as he told us after the game today, if he was willing to be back on that second year of that deal. So Pete's looking to get paid. The financial stuff we can hash out in the offseason. Anything above 200, I'm not touching. But I call that a bold-faced lie, Ray. I don't think they go above 5.
And I agree, bold-faced lie, and it's for a couple of the reasons that you laid out. Number one, and we addressed it slightly in the postgame, Brandon Nimmo's got 5 years, $20.5 million a year for the next 5 years. So for the Mets to go beyond 5 years, you're talking 6, 7 years, something Alonso has talked about multiple times, Dan, about he wants to play till he's 40. Now, I'm not saying the Mets will pay him till he's 40, but he's looking for that 6 or 7 year deal. I actually think there will be a team that will go out there and offer him 5 years, potentially 6, considering what he did this year. You look at some of the teams around the MLB, a lot of offense is down, and that's something that Pete Alonso could probably guarantee you over the next few years. And yes, I'm not saying he's Juan Soto, but he has that Juan Soto type effect. Another organization brings him in, he'll sell a ton of jerseys, and he'll put a lot of fannies in the seat, something that the New York Mets have already sold 1 million of his jerseys, so they're not going to make that money back on him. I say bold-faced lie because Brandon Nimmo, after next year, I expect him to start taking on a part-time DH role, and following 2026, I could see him being our next Starling Marte. We all saw how that contract turned out, especially with the foot injury. I say bold-faced lie because that DH position that Pete Alonso would assume probably in 3 years from now, I don't see the Mets having Nimmo and Alonso and a potentially 34, 35-year-old Francisco Lindor, all those guys in their mid to late 30s on this team. And that's why I actually think the Mets will not even bring Alonso back.
Real quick, too.
Good.
Yeah, just because we're not saying he's going to get a 5-year deal doesn't mean he won't be a Met when he's 35, 36. You can give him a 4-year deal if he looks amazing by year 4, re-up for another 3 years, re-up for another 4 years. He'll be 38 by the time he's hanging up the pinstripes. That's pretty good.
Maybe, just maybe, if I'm the Mets and Alonso wants to be back so badly, but Stearns says I will not go beyond 4 years, you make an incentive laden. You make it where it's almost a vested option, like Justin Verlander. Let's go back to that. Verlander needed, 135 innings? He didn't hit it, so the Mets got relieved of that $17.5 million, which they would have had to pay half of that contract. Maybe you make it where if Alonso plays 125 games and hits over 25 home runs, he gets that 6th year at a discounted rate. Maybe instead of paying him $27, $28 million a year that final year, maybe it goes down to 20. So maybe you're looking in the realm of 5 years, 120, we'll say $135 million, $27, $28 million, with a vested option for that 6th year to push it to 6 years, 150. I think that could be a win-win for the Mets and Alonso, because let's all put it in perspective here. If Alonso walks, there better, Dan, be a mega bat walking through those blue and orange doors, because if there's not, we think our offense struggled the second half of this year. Imagine what it would be like without Pete Alonso. On to the next bold-faced true, bold-faced lie. The New York Mets will retain Jeremy Hefner after this atrocious second half.
I think it's a bold-faced lie. And I look at what we're dealing with season to season in terms of what Hefner was supposed to be getting better at. It was limiting walks, right? That was a big problem and probably one of the reasons why the Mets did not go to the World Series last year. If they were able to control the walks, there was a very good chance that they had some better showings against that Dodger team. 2024, the Mets were 3rd in all of baseball with 586 walks. In 2025, you would expect it to get a lot better. They were 7th, 5.4 5-6 walks a game. 500
Bro, that is crazy.
this season as a staff. So they didn't get much better. They actually, they got 4 spots better. They're still top 10 worst in baseball in walks. This is something that needs to be better. Hefner's a great coach. He's world renowned. We understand all of that. He can have success in Pittsburgh. He can have success in Colorado. Go take him off our hands. I love Jeremy Hefner. I think he's done a great job, but I think his time has gotten stale, and the results are not improving. This staff
three managers, bro.
It's bad. So it's really bad. We love our former Mets being coaches, 2012, 2013. He didn't do much when he was a Met. We all understand that. But I think the pitching lab was another bill of goods that we were sold. I don't know what the pitching lab is. Can someone explain that in the comments? Like, I know what it is. I've seen it. You can't go inside if you're media. But what is the pitching lab? I think we have this idea, Ray, that you take a pitcher like a Luis Severino and he pops out of the pitching lab. He's a much better pitcher, and he makes $66 million with the A's.
You put him in a vending machine and he comes out throwing harder.
Right. There's
a machine in there stretching his arm out.
That's what I'm saying. So for people that sit back and say, "Oh, the pitching lab is going to save the Mets season," how did it work out this year? Griffin Canning was showing signs of regression before he got hurt. It wasn't like
last 5 starts ERA almost 6.5, I believe, or 7. His ERA, Dan, remember this. He had a sub-2 ERA, sub-3 ERA. Then all of a sudden you look when he went down, 3.77 ERA, which means his last 5 starts, he got hit around, and he got hit around bad. And with that said, BG the Kid checking in with a super chat, BG. Appreciate you, my guy. BG says Mendy and staff bear the brunt of this, from pitching management to mental errors. My opinion is Stearns lets this group run it back after last year, but really wanted to tear it down. That needs to happen now. I agree. And we got reporting right afterwards. And we reported it live on Charles Space. If you guys want to go back, I believe it's still going now. We reported this 3 hours ago, of course, before Andy Martino did, as we always seem to do. But we said the Mets have no intentions on letting Carlos Mendoza go following this season. And then after the game, Andy Martino said from what he's hearing is the Mets plan on bringing him back. We heard the vote of confidence from him, from David Stearns, just a month or two ago, Dan, or pretty recently. But that doesn't mean other changes aren't going to happen. I would personally move on from Eric Chavez. I know you want to say the offense kind of picked it up here or there throughout the season. I think he's been toxic to the fan base. He'd be an easy scapegoat. I don't think he's world renowned, so like Jeremy Hefner. So maybe he's the guy in Barnes you look to. For instance, and this gets you to our next, and it almost coincides with one another, with our next Bullface Truth, Bullface Lie. The Mets will finally get Pete Alonso the protection that he needs. And I'll answer it first. I will say bold-face lie. Bold-face lie. If the Mets do retain Pete Alonso, there's one player I have in mind to kind of extend this lineup where you could then move Nimmo behind Alonso. We'll get that to that in a minute. But we also got to remember, Dan, Diaz is probably going to get a raise. Alonso is going to get long-term money. This whole bullpen's got to be – you're losing A.J. Minter, Rogers, Castillo, Helsley, Stanek. 5 guys right off the top, even though I don't understand why Carlos Mendoza continues to throw Ryan Stanek down our throats with a 5.5 ERA in a 0-0 game, but we'll get to that in a second. But those are 5 back-end pitchers you need to replace. Brooks Raley, probably the second most trusted guy outside of Edwin Diaz. Dan, it's literally an entire bullpen needs to be built. And going into next year, and we'll get to that in a minute, in regard to the starting pitching, you got to do something with that. We've been screaming about it for 3 years now. You bring in Juan Soto, all it did was push Alonso down in the lineup, one more hitter, and we're still watching Jeff Popfly McNeil be Pete Alonso's protection. Do you trust Mark Vientos enough to be the protection? Brett Beatty, potentially, but we don't know. So I'm right now going to say it's a bold-faced lie that the New York Mets will finally provide Pete Alonso with the protection that he needs.
I'm gonna have to say a bold-faced lie as well, Ray, because you're right. I just don't know who that bat is gonna be. They have a bat who that could be because there's not many in this game who can protect Pete Alonso, right? We all understand that. Let's be honest. I mean, they could have batted Pete second and batted Soto third. It sounds so crazy, but that would have been the best protection for Pete over the course of the season. They would have been forced to pitch to him. And you could say they were pitching to him this year, but in a lot of instances, as we saw, they were pitching around Pete.
Even today.
Right. So they knew that they could, and that's an issue. And I'll pose the question. I just don't know who that big bat can be. I mean, the Mets have shown willingness to have a younger DH. We saw that with Mark Vientos this year. Maybe if they want to give Ryan Clifford some at-bats from the left side, they say, hey, we'll DH you a couple times a week. You could be the protection of Pete. I don't think that's a smart way of going about things. The real part of this situation is you don't have another real bat out there that you can go sign. There's not many good free agents, and it's the same thing with the pitchers, and it's frustrating. And I don't know who that bat is going to be. And if you let Pete Alonso walk, you are just making this team inherently worse on paper. And that is frustrating. There's no outside help for Pete. And if Pete walks, there's no help for this Mets team.
Well, there may have to make a trade. Or we could get to our first free agent that I'm going to personally look at. I know a lot of Met fans may not be a big fan, but for me, the Mark Vientos train has sailed. Everyone keeps saying, Ray, it's only his sophomore year. He came up in 2022, Dan? Yeah, he got a cup of tea, but 23, he was here. Up and down. 24, he was here, had a solid year. But in 3 of 4 years that Mark Vientos has had a taste at the major league level, he's a negative WAR player, well below league average. He can't field. He can't throw consistently. He has limited lateral movement. He is stuck to third base because the Mets, I was there, Dan. I don't know if you were at that game, but I was there when the Mets put him at first base. And let's just say, Pete Alonso looks like a platinum glove winner next to him. So if I'm the Mets, I'm looking to move Mark Vientos while he still may have a little value. If the Mets really trust Brett Beatty and what they're seeing this year at 760, 770 OPS, which I personally do, I think he turned a corner. And one thing that he does that Mark Vientos seems to never do, Beatty's willing to go the opposite way. And maybe another year of consistency, maybe, just maybe, Alex Bregman would be the guy. I know you say there's no legitimate bat. He went down with injury this year, but in 495 at-bats, so you could add a little bit onto this. 273, but his OPS is 821. The Mets desperately need another 800 OPS player. And when you're going back, if you look at Alex Bregman, last 3 out of 4 years, he has an OPS over 800. He's got 28 doubles this year, 30 last year, 28 the year before that, 38 the year before that. So he's been very consistent in that category. And another thing, when he's healthy, he's a lock to hit 20 plus home runs. So for me, if you want to finally give Alonso the backing that he needs, I switch it up, Dan. I'm with you. Lindor, Alonso, Soto, Bregman, Nimmo. I've now drastically lengthened the lineup, and you could even switch that around if you want. You could potentially swap Bregman and Nimmo and then have Beatty go behind him. So now you're deeper 1 through 6. Not only that, how many times have we talked about on this platform with you guys in here that the Mets defense has cost us games? How many times are we going to sit here and say, Mauricio fumbled the ball, or Vientos, the ball goes through his glove? Bregman is a gold glover and a damn good fielder. And Beatty is a very solid third baseman. And probably with an offseason, think about this, Dan. He learned second base in the offseason. Watching him play it this year, would you guess that? Give him a whole offseason more at second base. I think that gives you the potential to trade McNeil, who still has value on his contract, potentially trade Vientos because David Stearns doesn't believe in a full-time DH, and it allows you to retain a Pete Alonso. Now, Steve Cohen would have to be willing to spend more money, and then you could say, you know what? Jet Williams, Carson Bench, Tyron Taylor, you guys are going to dog it out. Whoever's the best center fielder, that's where we'll run it. That's where I'm looking at. Now, obviously, there's going to be other players that may shake loose, but as of this early, the last day of the New York Mets season, it would be a travesty for the Mets to bring back Pete Alonso and still not give him the proper protection in the lineup.
Yeah, a couple points on that, right? Like in the same way, and we'll talk about pitching in a minute, like you can trade for anybody in baseball, right? I mean, it's fantasy baseball when we're talking about it from this perspective. Trade for Paul Skeens on the pitching side, right? Maybe that's something the Mets try to do in the future. Who knows? I think that'd be a great decision, but I think 30 teams in baseball want that same player. So there's guys like that. I mean, J-Ram definitely comes to mind. Jose Ramirez, he can link up again with Lindor, that left side of the infield. They both broke into the league together, went to the World Series in 2016. Like, there's a lot of those connections that we could definitely try to hash out. Are the Mets going to trade for Jose Ramirez? I mean, probably not. Look at what the Guardians are doing right now. I mean, I just don't see a world where that happens, but they've sold off some contracts in the past. So something to think about. I mean, we were on the live the night of Heyman posting his column saying that the Mets liked the idea of Cody Bellinger. That's another name you could throw in there. Do I think the Mets are going to do that? No, I think the Yankees are going to retain him. So we could have these conversations if, again, there's more firestorm to it. The season just ended. The wound is very, very raw right now. And those are kind of the first instance guys that I think about that they could make the team better. They could be the protection for Pete. Do I think that's going to happen? Probably not. Same way Kyle Tucker. Like, is he going to find his way to the Mets? Probably not. So I hope I'm wrong. I hope these are guys that the Mets are shooting for the stars and aiming for, but there is some interesting names this offseason for sure. It's just I'm not so sure to the point of bold-faced truth, bold-faced lie. I don't know if they're going to be that protection to Pete Alonso, but we'll see. We have a long offseason ahead.
Bold-faced truth, bold-faced lie. Edwin Diaz will be the closer for the New York Mets in 2026.
Absolutely.
2025, or 26, whatever, yeah.
Yes, I think he will be. This is a player that needs to be back with the New York Mets. He is, you could say right now, the Mets' best closer of all time. I get there's other, names in that conversation, but he's very close. And if he has a couple more years tacked on, I think it makes a big difference. He has an opt-out. We all understand he's most likely going to exercise it, but it's not like Pete where we're so sure about it. I mean, it's still up in the air. $15.5 million for the next 2 seasons about, and then 17.2 a club option in 2028. So I think the Mets need to get him back. He has been one of the few bright spots of this team coming in and pitching. He was the Mets' best pitcher today, for being completely honest. Pitching 2 innings too, which is also solid. I mean, Diaz has shown enough. I have no problems with him. I have so much positive things to say about Diaz because he has been through the struggles of New York. His 2019 season, everybody wanted this guy out of town, and you see him fight through that. He has a good head on his shoulders. He has a good heart in his chest. He is a big part of this Mets core in a lot of ways. When we talk about, Brandon Nimmo and Jeff McNeil, they were the only 2 people to see Pete hit all of his 252 home runs at the time. A lot of people were kind of saying to me on the side, hey, don't forget about Edwin Diaz. I was talking more about the offense, but yes, Edwin Diaz has 100% been through the trenches with the Mets. So I think he deserves to be back. I think he will be back. And let's be honest, Ray, same thing with Pete Alonso, same conversation. If he leaves, who is the better replacement to Edwin Diaz right now? It's not many. Look at Tanner Scott. We all thought, that's the guy to go get. Yep. Completely, a miss on that. So if you lose Edwin Diaz, don't say there's better closers because let's be honest, there's not.
And you know what's interesting? I'm looking at some of the comments, and I actually agree with a lot of them. I want Lindor out of the damn leadoff hole. You can't. 25-25 or 30-30 is nice. He needs to be a run producer for what he's being paid. That's my opinion. And he's got to he's almost got to be the put up or shut up guy. You can't just be, if you're going to be like that, I need you to produce in the 2 or 3 hole. Like in a perfect world, in my opinion, somehow Jet Williams makes this team and is the prototypical on high on base, steals a lot of bags, is a pesky guy on the bags, and he's on when Lindor's up. I mean, think about it, Dan. The first half of the year when we couldn't score at all, what do we always say? Well, we have nobody in the bottom half of the lineup, so when Lindor's coming up, there's nobody on base. They need to solve that early. They have to. You get a real leadoff hitter here, it changes everything. Now, the Mets clearly think Carson Bench is going to be a star, and I actually think he's going to be very good. Maybe he's eventually that protection for Pete, but back to the bold-faced truth, bold-faced lie. I think it's a bold-faced lie. I don't think David Stearns is going to pay Edwin Diaz, and I'll tell you why. What does David Stearns always not do? He doesn't pay pitchers once they turn 30. Newsflash, Edwin Diaz will be 32 in March. This is going to be 32. He's looking at that 5-year deal that he just got, Dan. Somebody's going to give him that. Tanner Scott gets 4 years at 80. What was it? 4 years, $88 million. You bet your rear end, Edwin Diaz, someone's paying him 5 years. And I don't see it. I don't see David Stearns giving him 5 years, 32, 33, 34, 35, and 36 years old. I just don't see it. And Edwin is going to go for the money like every other player has a right to. And that upsets me. I want Edwin Diaz. I said it. He's the team MVP in my opinion. Some people are like, oh, there's no MVP. Okay, I'll tell you this. Edwin Diaz was the most consistent ball player on the New York Mets in 2025, and it wasn't even close. Soto had a great 2 months here or there. Remember, Soto didn't hit the first month. People forget that. Edwin Diaz was lights out all season. I could see the Mets turning around and giving Aroldis Chapman a couple bucks. Wow. I hate to even say that, Dan, but you're telling me the Dodgers, after the Tanner Scott thing was a failure, won't be involved? San Diego? How about the Yankees? How about the Red Sox? I think this offseason is going to be the offseason, especially with the Red Sox being in the wild card, depending on what happens with that. Wink, wink, we might be doing a watch along with the Yankees, Red Sox, go Sox.
Yep.
Them being involved. I could see maybe not Philly, but I could see maybe Atlanta. Maybe Baltimore says, you know what? We promised our fans we were going to start spending money. Maybe, just maybe San Francisco got a little taste. Just saying. Texas, there's going to be a team out there that's going to be willing to overpay Edwin Diaz. And I don't know if Steve Cohen's going to say, I want to. Just because Steve Cohen had a $380 million payroll last season doesn't mean next year he's going to do that. Now he should. The Mets fans showed out. We promised we would. $3+ million. He brought Soto in. He sold a lot of jerseys, made a lot of his money back. But that's only, I don't know what you have to say about that, Dan, but I think there's going to be a team out there that's going to give him 5 years.
I mean, a couple of things real quick. I'd be shocked if the Mets hit 3 million fans again next year. I think that number is going to be not out of the gate what it was, that's for sure. Fans are not going to be showing up in the same droves that they were this season because why would you? I feel you guys at home. You don't want to go to a Mets game anytime soon. You don't want to give your money to this team. Why would you? What was the product that they gave us in return? Absolutely nothing. So that's number one. And then two, I don't understand the argument, right? And I love you to death. You know that. When you talk about Stearns' mentality, right? And we've talked about this. Cohen's a separate subject. He can cut the blank checks if he needs to, but he relies on David Stearns to make the baseball decisions. What is Stearns' mentality, right? If you want to say, oh, they're not going to pay a guy over 30, kiss Framber Valdez goodbye. He's going to be 32.
All of them.
Right. So that's the point.
Michael King.
And we say this because we don't know his mentality. When I say this, the other point to that is he brought back Sean Manaea, 3 years, $75 million at 33 years old. So I truthfully don't know. And I think a lot of fans at home think they have this idea of David Stearns, once a pitcher hits 30 years old, he's not going to pay them. That's not true. So I do think with Diaz, I think it's a little different. He's a reliever. You can find ways to justify it because he's been so good this year for the Mets. So that's number one. And then I don't know. I think we get so caught up in David Stearns and what he thinks. I don't know what he thinks. And that's not a slight at him. I think he knows what he's doing. He's a very good GM. Just didn't have a good year. So it's such a tricky situation. But please, for the love of God, Steve Cohen, we know you're a friend of the podcast. You're probably not listening. Bring Edwin Diaz back.
Hey, he follows the podcast, so maybe he is. We'll see.
Maybe.
And Dan, look, I think Manaea is the exception to the rule, and I also think that's because he didn't get the 4 or 5 year deal. 3 years is a lot easier to justify than 5 years for a flamethrower. And I hope he does bring him back. But that'll take us to our next point, because we could always beat a horse with a stick, whatever you want to say it. But will the Mets bring in a frontline starter? And here's my big trade. And I know a lot of Mets fans are going to give me flack, so I'm ready for it. Bring it on. If the Tigers can't reach an extension with Tariq Skubal, it would be malpractice not to trade him. You can't let a guy like that, Jacob deGrom you, where you get 0. Imagine that offseason or deadline, Dan, dare I say, the Mets make deGrom available. You're getting anybody's top prospects. So if I'm the Mets, I make the call to Detroit. 29 years old. I'm willing to pay him big bucks. Pay him till he's 35, 36. He's the kind of guy you want to put 3 million fans back in. Have a 1-2 of Nolan McLean and Tariq Skubal. Believe me, Dan, you'll reach 3 million fans. It's easy to sit here right now on the last day of the season and say we won't hit 3 million fans, which I totally get. I totally get that. But we're Mets fans. For me to sit here and tell you guys I won't be at spring training would be the biggest of bold-faced lies. Because we go there every year. We cover it live for you guys down there, trying to bring you the best content possible. But it's besides that. I get that itch. All of a sudden, the winter meetings, the rumors, there's a reason why there's over 1,000 people in here live. Because you guys care like we do. And I'm telling you right now, if Detroit makes him available and everybody gets involved, and I know somebody's going to clip this, and in 5 years they're going to send it to me and say, "You were wrong, Ray." I would 100% include Jonah Tongue in a deal for him. 1,000%. If Detroit calls and says, "We want Jonah Tongue, we want Morabito, and we want one of your other top prospects outside of Williams and Bench," I'm pulling that trigger. Because when it comes to a wild card series, especially a wild card, because we are light years behind Philly right now. Don't talk to me about the division when you're double digits out. That's how I have to say. But what do we always say about this team? It lacks leadership. The fact Nolan McLean comes up in August and is your best pitcher is all you need to know. Now, I'm not saying you can't have young guys, but to expect Nolan McLean and Brandon Sproat to be the aces of this rotation heading into next year would be BS, and you can't sell that to Mets fans. And Steve Cohen knows that. Bringing a headliner like Skubal, now we're talking. You could then sell me on Kodai Senga, who's clearly still dealing with an injury. Go look at his comments today. He's never been healthy. He came back fighting to help the Mets get to the playoffs. But if you're telling me it's Skubal, McLean, Sproat as your number 5 or 6 with Manaea, Senga, Peterson, and the likes, you could sell me on that. But you got to get a frontline guy. And Dan, I know we spoke about it earlier. The Dylan Cease and the Michael Kings. I would love one of them because they only cost money. But Skubal is a guy you go into a short 5-game series with, or dare I say a 7-game series, and say, if I could pitch him and McLean twice, I have a great chance at winning. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because there's probably 2 pitchers in the game. You mentioned one, and I mentioned the other before, who you trade anybody for. I mean, you don't overextend your hand. You don't look stupid. You don't get fleeced. Paul Skeens, Tariq Skubal. Those are the two pitchers in the game of baseball right now who are the top of the top, cream of the crop. You trade the farm. I'm fine with it. Any name under the sun that isn't Nolan McLean, I'm pretty much fair game. Carson Bench, okay. Jet Williams, I'm fine with. Anybody else, I'm kind of fine with. I'm fine with trading Tong. I'd throw in Brandon Sproat if I really had to. It sounds so crazy. Dan, what are you doing? Think about what you're getting in return. If you can keep Nolan McLean, because that's what these teams are going to be asking for, you can kind of work around that, and Tong won't be enough on his own. The Mets kind of threw that out the window by putting him in the MLB too early, but is what it is. And Brandon Sproat, you could package those two together, get around it, have a really solid trade package in place, throw in an outfielder, throw in an infielder, whatever you got to do, make it work. You get a Paul Skeens, you get a Tariq Skubal. Skubal's the more likely one. I'm not so sure the Pirates are going to trade Skeens just yet, but anything's fair game. I mean, you heard Paul Skeens at the deadline. He didn't believe the rumors, but moving forward, I think he will start to believe the rumors. So there's a lot of smoke to that too on the Yankee side because Livy Dunn, obviously a New Jersey resident, Skeens from California, but I do think there is some smoke to that. Skubal, I would be over the moon if the Mets can do that, because then you can build around the rest of the rotation. Peterson's going to be back. He slots in not as a 3 or a 2 in some instances where he's really under a lot of pressure. He's more of a 4 or a 5. Senga, same thing. Kind of, was basically the ace going into the season. He can take a step back. You're a 3, maybe a 4. That takes a lot of stress off guys. Clay Holmes kind of in that same category. So you're not going to have Montas back. Christian Scott will be back competing for a rotation spot. McGill out for all of 2027. Canning probably not going to be back. So you have a little bit more flexibility now to kind of have a set rotation scheme, or Skubal, McLean, Senga, Manaya or Peterson or whatever. You guys get the point. So I like that more. You're 100% right. That'll get fans back in the seats, no doubt about it. But if you go into this season with, dare I say, McLean is your ace, not to say he can't be in the game of baseball, that's a problem. You did not get better from next year. And I say this all the time, Ray. I want you to answer the question for me because I know you know the answer. Who was the pitcher that I said the Mets should get and trade the farm for?
With DeGrom?
Well, last year, of course, I'd love DeGrom on the Mets. That's another conversation. Last year, lefty.
Oh, yeah, well,
Garrett Crochet.
Garrett Crochet, who'll be pitching game 1 in Boston.
Those are the misses that you can't let slip through your fingers again if you're the Mets. You can't do
that
it.
age, too.
You sign Juan Soto. You are the king of the baseball world. Everybody's watching the Mets. What is going to be their next move? And then they just don't do anything of significance for really the rest of the offseason.
It's unbelievable. And you know what?
Frustrating.
At one of our members, guys, if you want to be locked in to get your comments read on stream, become a member. It's the best way too. One of our members, Bob, put out this trade. Trade Alvarez, Tong, and Jet Williams to the Brewers for William Contreras and Freddie Peralta, which got me thinking. Freddie Peralta, and I just looked it up, Dan. Like next offseason, that is the offseason for some really good pitchers. And we could address the other pitchers that are going to be free agents this year. But Peralta's got a 1-year club option for next year. One of these pitchers are going to get traded. Whether it's Skubal, whether it's Peralta, because I just don't see these clubs letting them walk for absolutely nothing. Maybe Stearns turns around and says, hey, that guy with that 2.58 ERA, maybe that's the guy. We are loaded with position players. Nimmo's not going anywhere. Soto's not going anywhere. So you have one position in the outfield. You have shortstop clogged, potentially first base long-term with Alonso, and probably third base with Beatty. So that leaves you second base. Maybe Jet Williams. You still have McNeil on the roster. You still have Alvarez. Maybe, just maybe, something like that shakes loose. That's what we're going to have to look to. Now, I see some people commenting down below about Frander Valdez. I wouldn't touch him. I think he's a bad clubhouse guy. Intentionally drilling your catcher, Dan. To me, if things don't go right the way they haven't for the Mets, I don't know if he's the guy you want in that clubhouse.
No, definitely not. He's a good pitcher, gives you 200 innings a year, gives you about a 3.5, 4 WAR. He's a solid arm in the game of baseball, and he's been for the past 4 years. I just don't want him on the Mets. I don't. I'm sorry. I just get a bad feeling. And he has anger problems. He has all these things that the Mets don't need right now. They don't. So go and bring up Jack Wenninger and go bring up any of these guys. Have Lambert for the bullpen next year and Will Watson coming up and all these young, youthful talent that we're excited to see. That should be the future of the Mets. They're cheap. They're controllable. It worked out with Nolan McLean, but that doesn't stop you from getting a frontline guy. You have to do it, whether it be a trade. The free agents are a mess, right? There is no good free agents. They're all over 30 years old, and they're all pretty bad. So I names Jordan Montgomery, Nick Martinez, Chris Bassett, old friend. Lucas Giolito has a mutual option for $19 million. Chris Sale has a club option for $18 million. Framber Valdez, 31 years old, mention him. Miles Michaelis, Jack Flaherty, Max Scherzer is a free agent next year. These are the names we're dealing with. Not good.
Yeah, it's going to have to come via trade. It's very expensive. That's what happens when you draft poorly for years. And just because Noah, and I'm not saying he won't be great. I think Noah McLean will be special, but we can't just assume that next year, Dan. You can't just assume Brandon Sproat. You can't assume Tom. Those guys should be fighting for the 5th starter spot, not to be the ace of the staff. And that's what's going to end up happening. Anybody who thinks we're not running it back, I got a bridge to sell you in Brooklyn. Klub, one of our other members, chiming in. Stearns has so much work to do this offseason. And I got a feeling we're going to hear a lot of, we were close, we were competitive, we're where we want to be, we're right there. A ball here, a ball there, a bad call here, a bad call there. That's what I have a feeling we're going to get pitched rather than say, this is unacceptable. Not making the playoffs with a roster that we had. How many times, Dan, do we have to hear Carlos Mendoza postgame? This roster is too good for what is happening. That's a managerial issue.
If I had a nickel, Ray, for every time he said that, we would not be doing this podcast, ladies and gentlemen. We'd be living out in the Hamptons on a yacht. I mean, it is crazy. And it's just the same song and dance. And I like Mendy. I do. I'm not a Mendy apologist. I think he is the right guy for the job. I'm not employed by the Mets to say that. Wish I was, but it is what it is. Mendy's the right guy. Look at Aaron Boone with the Yankees, right? What he's done. Has been there since they lost Game 7, 2017 ALCS, out with Girardi, in with Boone. He's been there ever since. Yankee fans every single summer, every single offseason, go listen to WFAN 1019. Go rewind on the free Odyssey app. All these past months, you'll hear guys calling for Boone's name. It's New York. It's the high pressure. It's falling short of the World Series. That is the ultimate expectation in this town, to win. They've been calling for Boone's name forever. I feel like that's going to be the same thing with Mendy. I hope they have a bounce back season. Don't get me wrong. If the Mets miss the postseason next year, Mendy's gone. I'm not stupid, but I think he's going to have a better showing. We've talked about the barometer, right? Last year, really, really good. Game 6 NLCS. You could say that was the magic of the Mets, but Mendy was the manager, and he helped lead that team and showed leadership. This year, much worse. So I need to see where that little barometer is going to fall. This is what we're dealing with. I do think Mendy, again, the bilingual stuff, being able to relate to these guys. Is he a natural-born leader? No. But it's okay. Like, I think he'll learn. He's growing. So we'll see. But again, if we wake up tomorrow and Mendy's relieved of his duties, I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be blown away. I'd be confused, but I think he's going to be here for a lot longer than people think.
Well, you're probably right. Bob, one of our followers over on Facebook, and guys, do us a favor. If you want to help support the podcast, all I ask is a thumbs up on the video. And if you're a subscriber and don't want to miss a live, make sure you turn those notifications on, because you will get alerted every time we go live, especially when we have our guests. I've already reached out to a couple tonight. I'm trying to get some of them for during the week. Go over the actual plans for the Mets. Bob checks in 2 words: Lindor, toe. Once that happened, Mets collapse. That's a good point, Bob. And look, Lindor still had a damn good season, even with that bad toe. Wild to think. You got Bob's and our other Bob saying on YouTube, who do the Mets have coming off the books this season in addition to Marte, Diaz, Alonso? Tyron Taylor's got arbitration. I wouldn't be totally shocked if they just forego that, Dan. They just let it go. You have Mullins coming off, Helsley coming off, Rogers coming off, Castillo coming off, Raley coming off, a lot of the bullpen pitching type guys. You could kind of say Montas coming off. They're going to recoup a lot of that contract because he's going to miss all of next season with the Tommy John surgery. Anybody else I'm missing, Dan?
That's about it. I mean, all 4 guys at the trade deadline: Mullins, Helsley, Soto, Rogers. This is just courtesy of Fangraphs.
Think about what we gave up at the freaking deadline. All those prospects and not even sniff the wild card.
It's crazy. And you mentioned all the other names, free agents, right? Not player options, because the player options are Pete, which he's exercising. He's going to opt out. Frankie Montas probably going to get DFA'd. And then AJ Minter, who I will hope is back next year. Why would you not want a free $11 million? And then the free agents you mentioned: Winker, Stanek, Canning, and Marte.
Unbelievable.
I don't think Marte's back, too, if you want to touch on that real quick. As much as he's been a good veteran, we love Starling Marte. Ray, bold-faced truth, bold-faced lie. The Mets offer Starling Marte a 1-year deal for next season.
I say bold-faced truth.
Ooh.
I think 1 year, $5 million, $6 million with incentives. I could absolutely see it, 100%. And who knows? It's gonna be interesting because if they bring Marte back, who let's be honest, I mean, he could be insurance. Maybe he takes on that 4th outfielder role finally, which he should have this year instead of Tyron Taylor. But he could be a little bit of insurance. And I will say this: I don't know how much pull Soto has. You know, in those back meetings before Soto signed, I'm sure a lot of promises are made. We're going to compete every year you're here. We're going to sign the best of them. We're going to use you in recruiting. We need you to help us help recruit. We'll get your input in regard to the clubhouse and player evaluation, which I actually think, and I'm not reporting this, I'm not saying a source told me this, I think maybe that is what ruffled feathers. I think in this past offseason, I truly think the Mets consulted Juan Soto more than Lindor, more than Nimmo, and I think that is what created a rift. Remember what Soto said? He demanded Pete Alonso be back. Remember that? I need protection. What if Alonso walks? You got to keep Soto happy. He is your franchise. 14 years left, even with the opt-out. He's not going anywhere. And he's not going anywhere. You got to keep him happy. And I don't think you could say, hey, by the way, we got this kid, Ryan Clifford. I can't explain. AAA. He's got a 50% strikeout rate, but when he hits a home run, it goes really far. I don't see that happening. Now, could you say, hey, listen, we're letting Pete walk. We're going to get a guy like a Josh Naylor in here, but we're going to go out and try to trade and extend Tariq Skubal. Use that money there. Does Soto say okay? I think he's the one getting consulted. I think we all could see it. The media, to this day, I was talking with a media member post-game today. I'm like, how's the locker room? It's somber, but like every other locker room. I don't get it. How as fans do we know something is wrong with the chemistry of this team, Dan, but nobody else sees it? Maybe I'm blinded. Maybe I'm blinded by the blue and orange goggles. But maybe that's a reason why Pete might be gone too. I don't know how that clubhouse got along, but I do think Starling Marte will be back. You don't think so, Dan?
I don't think so. I know you want to placate Juan Soto. You want to make him happy. He's the franchise. You do what you have to do. In the same way that the Knicks do everything for Jalen Brunson, and he's unbelievable. And I can't wait for the Knicks. That's the next orange and blue team that I'm looking forward to. But you're right. Like eventually, these guys, Soto's a great player. He's not going anywhere. It is on the Mets after that 5th year to pay him. It's not Soto opting out. People get that very confused. If the Mets just up their salary, I believe it's $5 million each year for the final 10. It's a $50 million increase to Juan Soto. That's the Mets can do that with their eyes closed. Steve Cohen sells stocks for $50 million. Like he has pieces of artwork worth $50 million. So that's not the issue. The issue, what you're talking about, Ray, is pretty justified. Like you want to keep him happy, but if Starling Marte is the reason you come to work every day, we have to be asking some questions about the mental acuity and strength of Juan Soto.
Absolutely.
I don't go to work thinking about my coworkers. Love my coworkers. They're great people. But that's not the reason I get up and go to work every day. It's really a part of the money. Let's be honest. All of us work for our salary at the end of the day, to bring it home to our families, to make our wives, our children, girlfriends happy. But at the end of the day, that's not the end all be all. Like, Soto is getting paid. He should just be doing what he's doing. You don't need Marte to be the reason. But if it's a $2 million deal, how am I going to turn that down, right? I think there is some value to Starling Marte. I just don't think the Mets are going to bring him back. You have to go out with some of these contracts, move on from some of these players. Jesse Winker, we love you to death, but it just didn't work.
He's coming off the books too.
Another one. So
what another disaster.
Right.
I feel like everything Stearns touched turned to stone this season. Really?
100%.
Marte, down year. Winker, down year. Minter gets hurt. Rogers, traded for best reliever in baseball, sucked as a New York Met. Castillo, he was okay. Towards the end, he was bad. Helsley, solid closer. He ended up being terrible. Mullins was a below league average player, was extremely below league average player, to the point in elimination game, you're playing with a guy with a 400 OPS. Acuna, bringing him up, can't hit. Vientos, guaranteed DH time, can't swing, can't hit, can't field. It just literally everything. Sean Manaea, 3-year extension, absolutely terrible. David Peterson, relied to be an ace, was terrible in the second half. Kodai Senga, who's always injured, don't have a reliable replacement, stinks. It's literally Griffin Canning, sign him, was okay to start, got hurt, was terrible his last 5 starts. Find me one player that you looked at and said, wow, you know what? He outperforms his contract this year. Not even Pete. Pete's the highest paid first baseman in all of baseball. He should be doing what he's doing.
Yeah, I guess Brett Beatty would be a positive from this season. But that's not. I get what you're saying. Like, every person he's brought in has been a failure. That is the bottom line. He has not had a good year. He has not been a good GM in 2025. That's the bottom line. So you got to be better, guys. Like, we love David Stearns. He's a great GM, right? He does all the right things, but you question those decisions in 2025. Like, they asked him at the deadline, like, have you changed your mindset? And he really didn't. Like, it's always the same. We evaluate these players internally. There was no change of mindset. That's why tomorrow is going to be very interesting. And we might have a space or do a live or something or do a video on it to hear what David Stearns says.
Is he talking tomorrow?
Yes.
I might cover it live. Yeah. What time?
I might be right there with you. I imagine 3:15. I didn't see the.
We'll see. I might cover it live or right afterwards. We'll do a replay and watch it together so I can shred him to pieces.
But Cohen will not be speaking. So
somebody put it out there good. And I forgot about this. Mark, appreciate you chiming in over on Facebook. I think there's a Japanese guy who will be posted that has great numbers and can play first. Remember that?
Murakami.
David Stearns was literally in Japan a month ago scouting this guy live. You don't have to worry about the Dodgers.
Yeah, I don't know. Murakami might be profiling more as a third baseman. And if we think about third base, I mean, that is such a tricky position right now. Beatty is the short-term answer. He could be the long-term answer, but I think a lot of us look at Jacob Reimer potentially down the line, but a lot of us really look at Elian Pena, who's going to fill out, be a third baseman. You gave this guy the most international pool money in Mets history. So you better, have high hopes for him. And I think the Mets do.
Let's see. So he was born in 2000. So he's 25 years old. Murakami. 2025 stats. 261, 20 homers, and 176 at bats. It looks like last year, 2024, that's what they were talking about. 33 homers the year before that, 31 the year before that, 56.
Yep.
Wow.
MVP. Yeah, he's a good player.
Yeah, but you know what? I don't explain this to me. See, this is what scares the hell out of me, even with Japanese players. That year, he hit 318 and 56. The next year, 256, 244, 261. How do you go from hitting 320 to being 250?
It's a weird fall off. It could just be year-to-year fluctuations, but that is a big drop. It's a considerable drop to sit there and say he might not be worth bringing in. So I hear what you're saying. I wouldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole. I just wouldn't. He's a great player. Let him go to the Giants or whatever. Figure it out. They got their situation. They throw money at anybody. Go to the Angels. Go to the Mariners. Go to the Dodgers.
Or maybe if he's not crazy wanted, you sign him and you throw him in the farm system for a year.
Good.
Or let him prove it down there.
Sure. But if that's the replacement to Pete, fans
I'd be effing pissed.
Yes, very pissed off. Rightfully so. You can't do that.
We'll get to a couple more. Dolo. Yankees gave that contract to Fried, and they're in the playoffs. Right now you got to look. Yankees are doing their thing. That's all you got to say. Go Sox, baby. That's all I got to say. Zach, I don't want Valdez at all. Completely agree with Ray. I don't know how that one got started. Mark says, why not sign Schwarber as a DH to replace Pete's offense and try Naylor at first? I'll tell you one even better. You want to get Pete the real protection? Go get Schwarber. I mean, everyone says, oh, he wants to be a Phil. Money talks. We all wanted Zach Wheeler. You want payback? Add Schwarber to the lineup. Make your lineup Lindor, Soto, Alonso, Schwarber, Nimmo. Yikes. I mean, Schwarber strikes out a ton, but
that'd be great.
Can't deny that power.
That would be great.
Buzz chimes in. Buzz, where were you in the post game? You missed it, dog. Mets are and always will be a dumpster fire. Let's stop falling for the nonsense. Well,
it's the LOL Mets.
What'd you say?
It's the LOL Mets, right? It's the tale as old as time. Luis Castillo dropping a fly ball against the Yankees in the Subway Series. Of course, Yoenis Cespedes backhanding a ball in the left center field gap to begin the 2015 World Series. The 2022 epic collapse, obviously 2007, 7-game lead, 17 to play. 2022 just still blows my mind. I thought couldn't win a game in Atlanta, right? These are the things that are very frustrating. And then you get dog walked out of Citi Field in 2022. Unbelievable. No excuse. 2023, a failure of epic proportions, given the finances, given all the expectations. Oh, Scherzer, Verlander, 2 aces, they can get it done. And then 2025. I mean, LOL Mets, there are reasons. And I love all you guys at home. We're all Mets fans. We're some of the strongest people because being a Mets fan builds character. But there is a lot of laughter coming our way for the next few weeks. That is for sure.
Unbelievable. And we'll finish off with this. Ernest says, Jet Williams center field next season. Sure, but I don't want him to be the starting right out of camp. I mean, we gotta get another bona fide player in this on this team. I mean, I think Jeff McNeil's as good as gone. I don't know about you, Dan, but I think he could be a trade chip. I see people saying, oh, we want Beltran as manager. The Mets are keeping Mendoza. Not going anywhere. We can sit here and cry about that all we want. It ain't happening.
I think there's a real chance they trade McNeil, Ray. Again, think about what we were talking about going into this season. If Jeff McNeil gets his stock up, you can trade him. We thought Luis Angel Acuna was better. The Mets clearly folded and fumbled with that. I mean, Jet Williams could be the second baseman moving forward. There's a lot of those options. McNeil's stock is very high. I think a lot of teams would take him, and I think the Mets are probably going to trade him.
I agree. That's all we got for you guys tonight. Make sure you smash that like button. Turn those notifications on. Consider becoming a member if you want to be locked in to get your comments and questions read. Got a few guests coming up in this week. Might be doing a watch-along party. Watching the Red Sox beat the hell out of the Yankees would be so sweet. If I showed you guys my DMs over on X right now, I'm just going to leave it at that. But as always, we appreciate you guys. And we always
Thank you guys.
The same way, regardless of win or lose, which
what a season, everybody.
Probably them.
Let's go
Mets.
Mets.
God bless everybody.